0.
Aha.
Recording. Okay.
Now we're on.
I'm glad that you're willing to
Oh, yeah.
run these experiments with me.
We got it.
I'm learning how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I thought, today's December 12th, no, December 11th, 2022.
That looks right.
So what I think I want to do for this episode is to start with the domain of expertise.
Okay.
So we range a lot. We were talking earlier about how what was it that you said about there's all these people, specialized learning that we're aware of or can see. Do you remember that from earlier this morning?
Not that specifically like that. I mean, from all the different books and workshops we've been to. You're referring to that, or?
I don't remember exactly what it was. I think we were talking about a geologist, and there's just this idea that there's
so much expertise out there in so many fields now.
Yeah.
And then we have our interests. We're almost desperate, at least I am, and how can I keep up nowadays because of the availability, and then we have the inroads into all that through the internet and the books and things that we didn't used to have when we just had a farm schoolhouse.
Yeah, that's right. You did. You said something like a farm schoolhouse.
Yeah, you had, from kindergarten to 12 in one room and one teacher. And she had to spread herself across those 12 grades, a little bit here, a little bit there. So the kindergartner and the first and second grader got to pick up on the algebra in the 9th grade. And so it was a composition. The young ones got in on a lot of the older stuff. Yeah. And the older ones, a lot of times, they already knew what the little ones were getting. So there was a lot of teaching that was done, not by the teacher, but just by the environment. And now, that's in a bigger way is what happens to us now. We got this classroom called the internet, which lets us in on all the other superlative people that, we haven't been attained to that. So we can pick up a little bit as first graders or kindergartners and follow that particular path. And there's so many, for me, that I'm interested in, that I'm never bored. I don't have to ever wonder, what should I do today? I don't need to play golf or watch the games, all those different things. It's just that, wow, there's so much of interest unfolding, for me anyway, that I'd like to know more about. And to find people that were interested in some of the same things that I am, it's more than just things to speculate about, but to get the details and to get the newness. Some of the people that I've had the pleasure to be with, like Dr. Jeff Sutherland, in things like what he's been interested in is frequency medicine, energy medicines, and ways of using the scalar fields rather than just our own environmental fields of environment or medicines in the chemical realm, but in the more quantum aspect realms of vibration, electromagnetic stuff, and then that which is unseen. Because for me, there's the unseen that already knows everything. There's the field, whatever you want to call it, that is everywhere and in everything. And we have the ability to contact that field, which is an internet's internet, so to speak. It has everything in it, not only the past and in the present, but also the future is available in that aspect of knowingness, beingness, the world being not just the world, but everything is mental and it's vibrating. And so vibration means, in other words, this oscillation, this one pole, back to another pole, back to another pole. So each one of those, there's an end point, a stop, whatever that is, where things change in direction, that instant where it's not going this way, it's not going that way. And then there's a neutral point that the balance is between both poles, you're halfway, and then it goes to the other pole. And that seems to be in octaves of demonstration, which we find in the element tables of the elements. You know, there's electrons on this side, build to 8 in the outer ring, to nothing, you know, to below hydrogen. There's no electrons in the outer ring, and there's about 3 octaves below hydrogen that are vibrations that lead to the field, which has rotation. Rotation in one way is energy going in, and the other is energy coming out of this place of non-existence, which includes everything. So all these different disciplines I find, whether it's geology or astronomy, mathematics, aviation, mechanical engineering, chopping wood, they all come out of that aspect. You know, fire, water, gas, heat is a function of fire. So I got a wide spread of stuff that just interests me, how that all comes about. How can everything be available out of nothingness?
Yeah.
So those questions come up in everything that I kind of, I kind of call it maybe a tapestry. Here's the tapestry of existence, and we have a few of the threads that are making the patterns in our understanding of the motive.
Of the, what did you say?
Motive, yeah, the
motive.
Motif.
Motif.
Motif, yeah.
Yeah.
T-I-F.
Okay. So I think you and I are similar in that we're open to ideas. We're actually interested by ideas, which is, I think it's a personality trait.
Uh-huh.
Not everybody that I encounter is like that. Some people aren't interested in ideas hardly at all. And the thing that I wanted to dwell on a little bit today, if you're willing, is your own domain of expertise in terms of your own personal bodily experience. And because I don't really know why I want to do that, other than you said something earlier this morning. We were talking about the teaching dynamic. I said teaching circumstance. And you were talking about how you weren't ever comfortable with a particular domain of knowledge, is how I understood it, unless you could teach it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I felt, when I could say that I understand it, and I would, within my own being, when I reached that level of broadness of understanding inside, that, yeah, I can teach that subject. I would have enough knowledge within my own being that the elements that I knew about in that subject, I could interrelate those at any combination of question.
Yeah, what you said earlier is that you could describe the relationships between the elements involved, and then I added the teaching circumstance. So whatever element the teacher introduces into the teaching circumstance, that teacher be willing and capable of explaining the relationships between the elements that the teacher introduces and the other elements in that circumstance.
Yeah, I experienced that in the teachers over the years, the different elements of different schoolings that I've been to, when you could pose the question that was in your mind that was going on with the explanation on the blackboard or in the lecture, and can you give that to me in a different way that I can understand in terms of my understanding of the language or perceptions that I've had. So can you bring forth a different scene? And some could and some couldn't. Some would stand there like, let's go on.
Yeah.
And others would say, oh, okay, we'll look at. So when I was teaching the different things that I've taught in my lifetime, where the questions came up, was early in my life. I was in my 20s, early 20s, 20, 21, 22. I was teaching flying, people how to fly an airplane.
Yeah.
And I would use the airplane terminology, the aileron. Well, the person that I was talking to and who was trying to fly the airplane, it hadn't heard that word before, didn't know what I was talking about. Oh, well, then I have to bring him back out there on that wing. Take a look out the. You use a pattern where you could teach him what that you were talking about, what that word related to on the airplane, and it was interesting to be able to find these people coming to this field without a background knowledge in it, where I had to start to bring them up into knowledge just in expressing what I was talking about, the words that I was talking about. Not realizing in my early life that everybody didn't understand all the words. They didn't have everything named with an understanding of what it was. But once you had that nomenclature down, then you could teach a lot better. Or demonstrate, even though they knew what you're talking about, you'd have to be able to demonstrate what I was trying to teach, in the maneuvers and that's, and it may be several different ways to find the pathway into that person's psyche and mind that they had a pathway of knowledge. Oh, that they could see the relationship I was talking about. So I learned more from my students usually than I was teaching, because I was learning how to teach. And I was learning, about human nature, and that, everybody doesn't see the world the same way that I did. So when you're a teacher, you usually have a clarity about the subject you're going to teach, unless you were just thrown into it by superior activity. Somebody said, take these and do this with it. And you might be a little bewildered on how to start, but you start with what you know about it and see if you can move that information on to others. So that's what I found about humans and human nature, was that everybody has a different perspective. They have usually different pictures about a lot of the different words, what the metaphor of word means compared. You have idea, you paint the idea with the words of your language. And if you got somebody speaking in a different language that I don't know about or haven't learned, the same idea and the same concepts that are going out there with a different sound of their different languages. So that abominos, ooh. Once you know what abominos is, yeah, let's get going. And so it's just been a delight, going through life, finding out all these things and dealing with the projection. See, I project the idea that I create my whole world around me. Not as an individually human being person, but by the unseen aspects of my being, soul, spirit, whatever you want to call that in the English language. But there is that presence of life force flowing through this thing that is itself being itself. And then I can drape that in any of the different types of learning or subjects. I can pick it, and it all is integrated into that tapestry of this is everything. And you get to follow that back to where it's all coming out of nothing. All material universe is detected by our senses, and when you follow that back, it ends up, it's just an idea, it's just mental. And it's nothingness that is everything. It's this energy and information. Same energy with different information on it appears as different aspects of your environment or your life or your experience. That's what I kind of live with that now, so everything is okay.
Yeah.
Everything's okay as it is. I don't have to change anything. And I can just delight in dealing with this performance of spirit, I would say. Yeah. How much of it can I indulge in with a little bit of a knowledge? Oh, and being able to move out of a fixed situation. There can only be this or that, or a certain doctrine which limits you. So, any other questions about anything?
Well, I'm going to relate a couple of things that I've said to other people recently.
Okay.
So and I'm going to relate a few facts about the relatively current circumstance of my life.
Okay.
And then we'll see where it goes from there. So I think the most important thing going on in my personal life right now is this transition that Benjamin, my son, is making from adolescence to adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned a little while ago in what you were in your remarks that there's this, you said, unless you're thrown into the teaching
Mm-hmm.
circumstance. And in that case, you're just doing the best that you can.
Right.
And I think archetype or archetypal is the correct way to refer to it, but the father-son relationship is an archetypal relationship in reality.
That's one of them.
One of them, yeah. That's just the one I'm
Yeah.
focused on right now, and so there's that. And you don't. I haven't done it before, and I do. It does seem it's not exact. I think it is. I think fundamentally it is a teacher. It's a teaching circumstance where you have one body. You said demonstrating to another how to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so in this life, in this circumstance, it's one male of the species demonstrating how to be an adult male of that species. And that's that's a very complicated.
Yeah, it is. It's been ritualized in many societies, how that's done. And when you're like just thrown into, if you don't have that cultural commitment because of the tribe you're in says do it this way, you're on your own. So there comes the puzzle and the thinking.
So that's helpful. So that puzzle, I think that's what's been going on. I think that is. So I'll make the proposition that the human is this thing in creation, in reality, that is, as far as I'm aware, the most highly adaptable aspect of reality. It's the piece, it's the part of the reality that has the capacity to, I guess, maintain both the, how do I say this? Maintain the, there's a sense of individuated self. For me, it's a highly resolved sense, as in, I feel really separate from all of the rest of reality. Like there's a clear identification of a separate being here.
That's the aspect of evolution. You're not bringing forth what was taught to you or anything. You're evolving. You have that separateness. You're on your own, bringing in something new that's never been here before in this situation.
Which is as adapted as it can possibly be
Yeah.
to what the current circumstance
That's
is.
right.
So that's what I mean by the most highly adapted element of reality. It's the one where it's the aspect that is most adaptable. So, and obviously that's been evolutionarily conserved for some time now. Like it's been getting, I think, well, it has to have been getting better at it because it simply has more time doing it. So it's more practice. It's more repetitions. But it's interesting because it's a repetition of a general problem-solving dynamic. It's a repetition of having to figure out something new over and over and over and over again. So there's this thing about traditions, and there's this idea that, which I think is correct. It's like if you have, our bodies do it, I think. My body takes things and it figures it out, and then it moves the routine necessary to stay in appropriate relationship with the external environment into the subconscious. It reduces the cost to implement that and execute that routine. Does that sound right?
You see, I look at it this way. When I came into the planet, there was like about 2 billion people on the planet. Now there's 8 billion. So this thing that's functioning as each one of us now has 6 billion more people to process these evolutionary tidbits into existence. So like you've mentioned before, that's not linear. You see, it's exponential. So I think that what you just said there, see, that applies to, now what is functioning has all these avenues that it didn't have at the time I was born. It only had this many. Now it's got this many choices and this many outcomes. So that's the evolution. It's, in our lifetime, we're leaving behind a lot of traditional societal restrictions on function of the humans. And there's a great awakening going on because a lot of them are puzzled over this, or they never encountered the tribal rules.
Yeah, which is so that's me.
Yeah.
There haven't been any. There's the tribal rules for me. Well, and I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about this, if you've got a different view on it at all. But it seems to me that the closest thing that I have akin to tribal rules occur at a state level and at a national level, which is a long ways away from me as a person.
Yeah. Well, my experimental life as being a father, what do I do with these children? What's my responsibility to these children? Well, I reduced it to, it isn't really my responsibility for their lives, except to keep them alive until they're functioning on their own. So I just presented them with what I could in the way of freedom and the necessities of life, and in as safe an environment as I could provide at the time. to let that each one of them grow into whoever they're going to be. I didn't put you into the churches. I didn't put you into the Boy Scouts. I didn't, ritualize you anyway, just to see, okay, I let them make their own choices. What are they going to do with their pickup or their cars? I'll just let go of a lot of things. Okay, that's going down the tube. That's going. But, I'm pleased with how things turned out. I got 3 real individuated children that it's fun to see for me. And, how are they turning out?
Yeah.
All different. They're all very different. And they're still, for the most part, speaking to one another. My daughter she's estranged from this family since she was, 11 years old. She she wanted to be by herself a lot, Her allegiance went to animals mostly. And our youngest, Kurt, he was the first one to really leave the family and go out amongst others to find his family group out there. And so they're all here close by trying to figure it out. And I don't have to. I can just observe.
Yeah.
And delight in what they bring to me. See, they bring a different perspective for the interactions I have with them. And it's not my job to run their life.
So, what I was hoping to do is come spend some time on, now I don't know how much time we'll spend on it, but come back to the domain of expertise. So, I recently said, to a teacher who I am going to teach me how to teach.
Uh-huh.
And this will be the third formal instance of this that I've gone through in my life. The first one was I actually don't remember whether I got my flight instructor certificate or my scuba instructor certificate first. Doesn't matter for now. Both of those two came in quick succession in terms of early part of my life, early adulthood. So I went through a formal program where when I come out of it, I'm ostensibly a teacher I can teach you how to scuba dive.
Mm-hmm.
And that one I actually fulfilled in the sense that I actually took their bodies into the water and with particular gear and got them to a point where I was comfortable saying, you're qualified to go do this. You can do this and be at least as safe as I am.
Mm-hmm.
I guess is one way of saying it. With the flying, I got to the point where they said, you can do that now. You can take people and you can teach them how to fly, where I was qualified by Federal Aviation Administration to do that. I never fulfilled that, or haven't yet, maybe is what I probably ought to say. I would still like to fulfill that. That was an even more stringent, like the in my mind, those two domains, the scuba diving is a less risky proposition. The cost of failure in an airplane is much higher than the cost of failure in scuba diving. Now, there's instances in both where what I'm talking about is the lethality of the enterprise. Like, how risky to the human life is it to go get underwater compared to how risky is it to go get into the atmosphere. And I won't try. I guess I won't bother to elaborate on it as to why I think that's the case, because they're both potentially lethal. Anyway, what I want to get to here is that this is the third time around. So now I'm seeking a credential, and it isn't so much the credential for me as it is the genuine that sense that I'm actually qualified to present myself to you as a teacher of yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sat down. So it's taken me a long time. I've been practicing that, whatever that is, whatever yoga is. I hesitate to try to describe what it encompasses, because I think it encompasses my entire life. I think that it's a lifetime practice, which sets it apart, I guess, from something like scuba diving, where I can say, I've successfully executed a particular dive. I've gone through that cycle. You were talking about oscillating between two poles before. So it's like you begin the process, you go through the process, you come out of the process, and then you can reflect on the process. The practice of yoga, in my mind, I don't know that I get to. I think that the process, if there is a process, if there's an analog to what I just described in terms of the practice of yoga, I think it probably begins, if not if I'm not going to contemplate before birth, I'll just go with breath. So I think maybe it begins, I'll play, this is an idea that I'm playing with, but the idea is there's breath. So come out of the womb into the world, take that first breath on your own. That's the first inhalation. And then you get to do, I'd like to have the statistic, I have a book that counts them out, but there's a normal number of those that a human being experiences, and then there's the final exhalation. So that, to me, that is the practice of yoga. It's like, do that competently, end to end.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was sitting with this teacher, so I've been practicing for decades now, and consciously, like deliberately, that's what I'm doing, and it's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer. That's probably the best articulation of it that I've been able to manage so far, just there. And there's this idea that the teacher-student relationship is necessary to that practice somehow. It's not optional. And I don't know if that's right or not, but it seems right to me. So the idea there is that I can't do it by myself. I actually need another body to show me how to do it.
See, what with my mother, I was with her when she took her last breath. And the thought occurred to me at the time I was present with her when I took my first breath. And I was present with her when she took her last breath. So you were mentioning you needed another body to work with. See, and I think that's what we do with generation one. I was just carrying on the breath. She gave me breath. And I still have some breath left after she finished her breath. And I'll give up my last breath somewhere. So the breath is very significant in life. And to the point where you're being the teacher, when you know that you understand the situation enough that people can come to you with the question or the problem. And in my lifetime, I learned a lot of different things. Flying, I let people go solo. But before that, they could bring their radio to me that's broken. Oh yeah, I can fix your radio. I can fix your refrigerator. I can fix your car. Because we had a grounding understanding of how it worked
Yeah.
and why it worked. And I think that's what my dad used to say. If you know how, then you know why, or is it, if you know why it's like that, you can always figure out how to fix it. And I don't remember which way that works the best. It works okay for me both ways, see.
Yeah.
So it just depends. The element, what do I give the meaning of why and how? But I had a couple instances, in flying where I wasn't ready to let the guy go, but he insisted. Was one old Sykes. He was a guy from California, and I was teaching him in the Super Cub, and I was leaving the military at the time. That was the last time we were going to be able to fly together, and he wanted me to solo him before I left. And so we went up to the airport at Rolla, Missouri, and it's just a strip out there that's Missouri, and so windy and crosswinds, and he wasn't really, he was okay in a lot of ways, but the gust and stuff could be more than he could handle sometimes. But he insisted. I said, okay, we might wreck the airplane, but go ahead. And he went out there and did it. And he was just so excited, that, oh boy, he got to do this. I wiped the sweat from my brow. And there was another one, the guy was just learning, and he bounced the airplane. He wasn't very good at it, what he was doing, just a little pattern work. And he'd come out and he would fly the airplane by himself without checking out the airplane. No, you haven't soloed yet. I haven't said you're good enough, but he did it anyway. Not only that, but he took his family and little kid with him. I said, yeah. Well, he was successful. He taxied it back in, but so
That was also a Super Cub?
yeah, that was when I was at Forney Field. He did that when I was teaching, but he wasn't ready in my book to fly it by himself, because if anything went wrong, he wouldn't have had any experience in that. Yeah. But these people have enough confidence in themselves that I can do it, and that is a big element. Yeah. If they have their confidence, that works. People without confidence just doesn't work. Another fellow wanted to learn to fly so bad, but he got sick all the time. He was scared to death with that airplane, the apprehension. And I said, okay, I can take this a little farther for you and show you a few things. So I took him up and I said, we'll do spins. Yeah. Did I tell you this ever before?
Maybe.
See, he was in the front seat of the Super Cub, and okay, I'll put it in this. I told him how the spin works, and here I'm going to demonstrate it, and just stay with me on the controls, hand the throttle and thing, and feet on the rudder pedals. That's all you did in those days. And so we start the spin. Goes up, turns upside down. His hands go up to the bars. Yeah. First time around, like that. Second time around, he could come back. And the third or fourth time, he was doing them. Yeah. And after that, he just was full on. He never had any trouble after that. But I was the same. I didn't like heights. I was leery about these airplanes. I didn't want to do stalls. I saw in the syllabus, next lesson we do stalls. Yeah. And then there was spins in it. I said, do we really have to do this? But, once you go through it, it's like you jumping out of the airplane. You got to do it once to see what it's like. So, teaching, what are you teaching? Somebody that can't understand your language doesn't work very well. Somebody in the same level of spiritual understanding works good. You don't even have to say words practically. You just, idea. You can work from the ID level rather than the language level. Or, let me show you how to cut that. Let me show you how to make that smooth with a plane. Oh, I see. Or you could at this level, yeah, that would happen if you did this. I don't need to see it done. I just know that's how it would work. So that's what I found teaching and being with people. And there's so many people that I couldn't connect with at their level because I wasn't at that level of understanding or that level of spiritual understanding or the connection with my high self, if there's such a thing as a high self. And then my understanding later is I'm presenting myself with all my environment, all the people in it, all the circumstances. I'm presenting myself with that as a learning tool, an appreciation tool, something that can connect with my feeling nature. That's beautiful, or that's scary, you know. So you can deal with it the same way that Lieutenant O'Meara did. First time through, second time through, I've got it. And I think we can do that with any subject along the way. And that relates to the problem where, hey, Eric, take care of that. I've never done that before, and I got this whole group of people to take care of. How in the heck am I going to do it? Because you haven't had the experience yet. You haven't had the training yet. So you rely on something else. Yeah. Knowingness, intuition. And you brought it up. In this particular situation, what can I bring to it? Your capacities might be well outside that field of endeavor, but you can bring that experience somehow to it by just asking.
So thank you so much for all of that. That's beautiful. One of the things that is occurring to me as I'm listening to you has to do with, well, I think there's two or three related ideas here, and let's see if I can knit them together at all. So what was the name of the fellow who was struggling with spins?
Lieutenant O'Meara.
Lieutenant O'Meara.
Mm-hmm.
So that one of the heavy focuses. You okay, time wise?
Yeah, I just saw birds were flying by. Yeah.
One of the heavy focuses of yoga practice, as I understand it, is paying attention to the sensations in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And what I heard you say, I think, was that you were relating some anxiety that was perceptible.
Yeah.
It was really and back to the idea that the entire practice of yoga is this first breath, last breath. Like you don't ever, it's a meta problem because it takes your whole life to solve it. And you don't know if you've actually solved it until you take that last breath, kind of idea. So what is it? You mentioned confidence, that it requires, there needs to be confidence to attempt something that you haven't done before, even while feeling the most uncomfortable sensations in the body.
Yeah.
So with respect to human life, the way and what I think I don't know if this is right, but what it seems like is that the discontent, the anxiousness, whatever it is in the people around me, I think maybe it has to do with the unconscious realization that that is in fact the circumstance that they're all in. So how do I act with confidence? How do I actually do it? How do I actually live it in that reality? And the obvious thing to me is like that all of creation so far has been doing it. And you're the condensation of that in this moment right now. So you don't, it's been, you are part of that telos, that giant flow of life.
Mm-hmm.
You're just this localized, I shouldn't say just, you're this localized instance of it. Yes, there's a feeling of anxiety. Yes, it's uncertain as to what's going to happen. And yes, that's uncomfortable in the body. And yes, you can have confidence to act in this moment because of everything that has gone before you.
Yeah, see, you can take it as role playing. Each one of us is playing a role, or more than one role, or several roles, or one role after another. Like you were the little kid, then you're the tot, then you're the kid, you're the teenager, you're the man out there, and then pretty soon you're a husband, and then you're a father. You know, the whole line keeps going. Or it's like the actor what do you do? It's an actor. And the play that we're putting on this week is this one, and I play this role. Next week we have an entirely different one. We have a comedy, and I'll be this one. I'm the star in this one, and I'm just a flunky in this one. And you can play all those different roles. And I think that's what we do in our lifetimes. A lot of people anchor into, okay, I'm this persona, and they stick with it.
Yeah.
And they don't like to move out of it because it becomes uncomfortable. There's the fear there, and if I move here, my body feels nervous. So there's another element here that I'm wondering about, and that, so the comment that I made to Dora is the teacher that I'm referring to, and I've shown you, you've seen her, I don't know if you remember, but I showed you a recording that I made with her a little while ago. The comment that I made to her is that it seems like an audacious proposition to put myself out there as a teacher. Yeah. I know that. Yeah, how can I be so arrogant as to try to teach you something?
Right.
Where am I that I could say that I am so qualified? Well, bring your radio to me. I can fix it. That's what you say. Answer.
Yeah, let me demonstrate. Okay, so that's the domain of expertise. We're finally going to get to the domain of expertise here. So there's another another thing that I said to a counselor that I work with, and I said this earlier this week. I think it was on Friday. Where you said a little while ago, you might be something to the effect that when you find yourself in a circumstance, you might notice that your capabilities are far outside the whatever that particular domain is.
Yeah.
But you also said you bring something. You say, okay, well, this is the one I'm in. So what can I do here that's helpful? Was kind of the gist of what I was listening to you say. I think, is that sound right?
Yeah.
So what I keep referring to myself as this happy kid from Hansville. Like I came into this world, and I really do just feel like it's just been magical. Like the whole life has just been, and particularly the childhood and the adolescence, like I was just playing, in a wholehearted, full-throated manner all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I move into the broader environment, into the rest of the people around here, the society, the culture, my state, my nation, and it's taken me, I think, 3 decades, and I feel dumb for not having figured this out before, or have a tumble to it. But it's like that has given me such a view on life that is that beyond. It's like life is so good. I've been confused as to why the people around me don't see it that way. It didn't even dawn on me that they don't see it that way. I'm just bewildered by like, what is going on here? So here at 50 some years old, I'm coming to the realization is, it's because, I don't know the full because. I'm starting to get to it, but so one of the becauses, we're going to run out of time here.
Okay.
But the thing that I really want to get to in this conversation, the thing that I said to Gary Sarazek is the guy I saw on Friday, and the thing that I said to him was, I tend to think about things from a way, way broader perspective, I think, than most people that I encounter.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know if I was born like that or if I learned it from you. And I said, if I learned it from you, I think maybe it has something to do with how the way that you looked at life and the exploration that you did. And I started thinking about, I'm also studying neurology, and I'm like, okay, how do these the structures of the brain, how do they become the structures that they are? And there's this neuroplasticity thing where it's like you can actually change them pretty easily. It takes some effort, but you can do it on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
We do it on an ongoing basis, more or less consciously. And so how you think about things, the habits. What's been occurring to me is that the things that you choose to think about and the method by which you use to think about them changes the structures of the neurology in a way that I think maybe enables that joyful presence in this world. Does that sound?
Yeah, you see, the word is joy, the joyfulness. The world is made out of joy. In God's love, is one way of saying it, is full of joy. Be of joy.
So here's a couple joyful ideas. So one is there's a joy. You've got a picture of you got a map of the sky on the wall over here that I'm looking at right now. It's behind the camera. So there's an awareness, there's a sense, and there's a contemplation. In that case, it's literally the heavens. You're contemplating the heavens, and you've spent a fair amount of your life, I think, doing that, like thinking about the celestial domain, and the characters in that, the bodies in that, and moving about in that, and your relationship to those. So that's doing something, I think, pretty profound to the neurology. And then there's this other thing. So I'll finally get into it. So I said, this guy, Gary, my dad. He would go get in these airplanes, and he would take them from this continent over to this continent across this ocean. And I'm like, what? Think about that for a moment. Like, what do you have to contemplate? How are you thinking about the world that you're living in order to do that? And that's just, like, there wasn't, you said a little while ago, the verbal, like, you don't have to tell somebody in a teacher-student. So teacher-student, you don't have to tell them. You're communicating whatever is necessary to the process of learning in other ways. So the simple presence of you in my life, what I think maybe is going on here is that those two things in particular, the contemplation of the celestial domain and the operational reality that you were embodied in on a regular basis. Like, I don't know, I'd be interested to know, off the top of your head how many hours of flying you got?
Probably 25 to 30,000 or something.
25 to 30,000 hours.
In the sky, yeah.
In the sky, flying airplanes. And most of those with a couple hundred people along with you that you're responsible for.
Yeah.
And you're doing, I would say, audacious things like taking them from one continent to another. Like it's no big deal.
That's right. I can get you there okay,
Yeah.
or get you back.
So that is the teacher that I have had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So that is the point that I wanted to. I think that's really the point that I want to get to. It's again, I feel dumb for not tumbling to it earlier, like not picking up on that. And it's not like I've been utterly ignorant of that, but it's the. I think what I maybe struggle with is the same way with the spins. So I've been through that process of doing a spin in an airplane, and it is an anxiety-provoking experience. You're literally taking the device, you're in the sky, and you're taking it, and you're going to say, "I'm going to make this thing stop flying."
Mm-hmm.
Not on the ground, up here.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to stop flying, and then we're going to find out if I can recover from that.
Yeah.
So there's some increment of that, I think, in every learning exercise. So whether I'm walking up to someone, whether I'm encountering someone and they don't know how to, well, if I take it to the asana practice, it's just, you don't know to move your hand a little bit so that you can open up the channel of energy between your torso and the full arm here, and to be able to, that's a super subtle thing, to be able to move into next to another person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And convey that message in a way in which it lands and they actually change the behavior.
Yeah. Now, we haven't talked much about your energetic field that's around you. See, this your body and stuff is a kind of a printout of the energetic field of knowingness and construction that builds the body. See, the yoga, if you're entitled here, but what about all this that's out here and the connection you and I have together with that mingling field? See, that field actually goes out forever, just like in radio broadcasts. Signal strength is strong here, but it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. It's like your cell phone. You send a little signal, picks it up way over there. And then it puts it into another system that can convey it with all the different wires and ways of getting it to someplace else. Either jumping it with electromagnetic radiation or along light lines, which is happening now. They're putting it all mostly in optical cable. So each one of us is connecting that way. And it's the neural response, you get through all your different systems. How can, the light stimulus following on the retina, running through some things in the back here, puts together a pattern that illuminates certain neurons in here, that makes little synapses jump across electrical signal, but also makes chemical signals. And it might even build some structure. And you do it again, and you do it again, and pretty soon that's a permanent connection. And out of that comes meaning, whatever meaning is. Well, I have a desire or an intent to do something with my body, and it can do it. And I can recall it, and it'll do it again. So in your body, you can tell whether your arms are out or in, because you have all those nerve endings that know what movement is.
Okay, so there's something that I really wanted to touch on. So back to the aileron and those nerve endings. So there's this sense that we'll stick with just vehicles for now.
Okay.
But you put the body into a vehicle.
Yeah.
And those nerve endings are exquisitely sensitive. and you can, I think we literally feel the flow of the air over the aileron. What do you think of that?
Yeah. Yeah, you sense it.
With your body.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so that is,
Because your body extends the whole length of the 747.
yeah, which is a really, and so do all of the other bodies in that 747.
Yeah, you can mix the whole thing. That's the orchestra.
Yeah, so that's beautiful. That's the orchestra. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you can own the whole planet that way, all the stuff that's going on, and you can add to or subtract from the different phenomena that are happening that you become cognizant of. And you have the capacity to change it one way or another by attitude.
By attitude. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and you managed to just imbue me with that, mostly, with just your presence.
Yeah, that's what they mean by presence. You don't have to have the body, but you have to have the energetic fields talking to each other, which they're doing all the time anyway, because it's the same one.
Yeah.
And it's just, what's the signal strength there and the signal strength here? Same information. What part of it can you activate at a time? Well, it depends what elements you're choosing to think about. Because you have mind.
So the choosing, that was the other thing, the attention. So the disciplined attention,
Yeah.
the ability to maintain attention.
You know, when you focus it, that's what you're going to precipitate out of the field.
Yeah.
The rest is just background. See, when I find that there's 350 people back there, and I don't know what that's all going on back there, except I'm communicating with them all because they're back there.
So that realization, that's the dawning, I think, that's going on, is that people are waking up to the realization that is true. It's deeply, deeply personal.
Yeah, and you get this question down here. Well, as a pod, don't you feel all this responsibility, or all these people and all their lives? I say, no. I just get myself to the airport on time,
Yep.
and they're there.
Yep.
I just take care of this one, and it automatically takes care of all that. And Gary Kramer, I said, God, you move these great big ships up against these piers, I said, without crashing. I said, how do you keep track of it all? He said, I just keep track of this side, the other side will take care of itself.
Right. Just one side. Oh, that's lovely. I think that's a great place to close it out. I love you a lot, Dad.
Yeah, likewise. I'm glad it turned out with somebody I can talk to. That's great.